What is up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Breathin Air podcast, where everyday action meets extraordinary mindset. We are here in Miami with someone who I've known now for, probably like 3 years. It's crazy to say that. Top 10 entrepreneur in 21 from LA Weekly, top 10 athlete on Instagram in Montreal, top 10 in a lot of different categories. This guy does it all, and he's, a great friend to me, and I'm excited to be here in Miami with him. So Jean Fallacara, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Woo! Thank you, Mason.
Yeah.
I'm so hyped to be here in front of you.
I know.
It's always behind cameras, but today we're here live in the best city of the world, I guess. Like, it's crazy, and we're in the middle of the action.
Yeah, I know. We were just talking about that because you recently just moved here, right?
Absolutely.
Not too long ago.
Yeah, in January, I moved to Miami from Boston, where I was there just 1 year, but coming from Canada, Boston weather was not great for my brain, so I said nah.
Yeah.
I like Boston, by the way. It's one of the best cities in the US for the culture, environment, speaking to people, mindset. It's great. Like, you have great entrepreneurs there.
So speaking of culture, you have a French background, you're
Italian
parents. Yeah, you lived in Canada. So give us a little bit of your background ethnically.
So born from immigrant Italian parents, raised in Italian first, learned French after. My name actually is Gianni, my mother would call me.
It's so much better than Mason. It makes Mason sound
so much better
bland.
Than Jean. Jean here in America, no one can pronounce it because it's just like Jean, John, June. No one says Jean. But anyway, so raised in France, spending my time in Italy when I was a kid during the summers, and moved to Canada in... I'm going to say that I'm going to look like an old man. 1994, you were not even born. Moved to Canada for starting my first business and went bankrupt. After that, lost my money. I came as an investor there. I lost my money. I went bankrupt. No one wanted to help me by that time. And then I started my second business and sold it for a bunch of great amount of money. But the stupid I was at that time, young enough to be stupid, and you can be stupid when you're old as well, acquired another business and borrowed money and ramped up that business from a private company to a public company, from 60-something million up to $120 million valuation. And then most recently, I sold my company to Intest. So that took me from Canada to Boston. From Boston, I loved it. It was super cool. Riding scooter all the time. Swapped my Range Rover for scooter. That was absolutely cool. More money you have, the less you want to show it off. And that's the trail. And then, so from Boston, one morning, because of my routines, I was going out to see the sunrise like every morning at the bay, and come out of my building, and it's so windy. So I get out of the building, try to walk toward the bay, and the wind blows me in a way that I was like frost, immediately like frozen. And I go like, no, I can't do that. It's impossible. My brain is not going to work. And I know that the light has an impact on my brain so strong that I came back home, I did some meditation, I stepped back, and I go like, I'm going to move to my place in Miami. And that was the decision. I announced that to the board of the company, and the company goes like, no, it's far, it's remote. And I go like, well, you guys want me to be efficient. I think that's the only way. It has to be that way. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So I'm moving. And I moved. And so far, I think I'm living at the best I've ever been in my entire life, honestly.
Yeah, it's crazy what a change of environment like that can do. I mean, we were talking earlier, it's like you're in a whole different atmosphere here, and it feels like the energy is just different. You got the beach, the sun, and it really is such a difference in the way you feel and your energy levels, and obviously all the physical benefits that you get from the sun too.
It is, physical, emotional. In terms of functionality, you're a biohacker, I'm a biohacker. Most of people that are in peak performance are biohackers anyway. But the small differences that you get by living here, like the sunshine is 12 hours a day. It's not 6 or 5 or 3 or 1. You don't procrastinate or just like overwhelm your brain with details that are useless. And one of the details is like, what are you wearing today? What? T-shirt. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. And tomorrow, a T-shirt.
That minimalistic lifestyle.
That's it. So that's the thing. And then you don't even try to, you don't overwhelm your brain with the things that I had before in Canada. For example, a storm is coming. I need to put my car in the garage, make sure that everything is safe, the entrance is, and all these details that are like bothering your mind. So you have more space for creativity, because this is the way that you succeed in life, is by being creative. And just because you spend more time being creative, I think that you find a better balance overall.
Yeah, it's interesting, being in the space where we're trying to, be able to push the 1% and get better and better. But one thing I've realized, with all these different pursuits, and I'm sure you have too, like we only have so much capacity in our brain for a day. And so it's easy to get all of these little things that don't really matter to take up this energy and space in our brain to where none is left for the things that actually matter.
I do agree on that. And I think that, unfortunately, we understand that too late in life. You're younger than me, so you got that already. So you're going to be better than me for sure. There is no question, no doubt on that. I realized that very late in my life, that those details are like, we pay attention to them in our lives, thinking that, they have an importance, or they don't, but at the end of the day, they have. And we want that 1%, or sometimes we want a bit more than 1%.
Yeah, of course.
And when we try to chase that greatness, those details count. Every single detail counts. Like sometimes, I still think that 24 hours in a day is not enough, because we need to sleep. You have to get those 24 hours as the most as you can get from them. Right. That's it. Yeah.
So you kind of mentioned, your journey entrepreneur wise, your first business failed, and then you built a great business. Was with your wife part of that as well?
Yeah.
Yep.
My wife's been with me for sometimes I say too long, and she doesn't like. That's a joke. We're friend and partners. Like, when you come to those relationships where you don't have to talk to understand, or to you don't have to say stuff and it's like understood. I think it's great. That's another thing in life that brings you peace and harmony.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's huge. And I feel like there's a lot of, in terms of the physicality, the materialistic sense, like there's a lot of things that we put value on that in the long term really don't add up to any value, and there's no longevity in those areas. But that's a whole different topic, right? But really, I kind of wanted to get into, you've had a business, like you've been at the bottom in terms of being bankrupt, starting from nothing, coming here, building something for yourself. And you've also been extremely innovative in, cyborg, what you're doing with neuroscience. Cyborg gains and neuroscience calisthenics, and acquired Biohackers magazine as well. And, had incredible people on there and built that publication. So there's a lot of things that you've done in terms of acquisition and your own company getting acquired as well. So what was some of some of the pivotal moments for you and some of the biggest learning points that you had through that journey?
Okay, so as you know, ADHD was my superpower. It was actually a struggle when I was younger. I was lucky enough to be one of these gifted child with a high IQ, which I don't know if that counts that much, but it's sometimes a trouble. But if you master this capacity of absorbing information, or I think it's more like not the capacity of absorbing information, the willing to learn all the time. So I don't watch TV, as I said, all the time. And I learn. That's all I do. But by learning, and when you master this ADHD and you turn it into like hyperfocus, you kind of unlock some things that people are chasing, and that for you becomes natural. It's creativity to a certain point that you see things that it's pretentious what I'm saying, but I assume it. I see the future. That's it. I see things that will happen in the future. When I look at Instagram, for example, I was the first coming with videos and special effects and things like that. Now it's everywhere. All videos are like that. I was telling my wife about it, and I go like, damn, everybody is doing this now. And she goes like, well, means like you need to do something else. Yeah, that's it. The power of creativity brings innovation. Innovation brings success because there is no success without innovation. And at the same time, on the human side of it, innovation helps our world to be better. And I think that's probably one of the goals that you get when you get older. At the beginning, you chase money. After all, money is a tool and it doesn't buy happiness. And so if you're creative, you innovate. If you innovate and you put the resources behind it, you make this world better. You bring better technologies, better living tools for others. That's about it, I guess.
So, you made a good point there that money is a tool. And you mentioned earlier, going from the Range Rover to the scooter and going from having to pick what you want to wear to just knowing that's doesn't matter.
No brand even.
Yeah. And the materialistic piece kind of fell off for you even so when you were making even more money.
Yeah.
So for those that are maybe chasing the money or, trying to get there and they haven't reached it yet, what is something that you would let them know that is not fulfilling or, maybe something that they can look at and say, I never thought of it that way when it comes to, chasing this ambition of monetary wealth?
It's because today, actually, I think that money helps people to compare themselves with others. So you buy stuff that you don't need with the money that you borrow from others to try to show off to people you don't even know most of the time.
That's true.
And at the end of the day, it's like that beautiful girl that you've been chasing your whole life. And when you end up by being with, you realize that she has no brain, for example, or things like that. And money has no brain and vanishes many aspects of people. So my advice on money is, I think that before chasing money, you need to have a purpose on what you are going to bring through your business. Of course, if you're a businessman, you want to make more money than if you were working 9 to 5, or it's just because you're not functional in those structures, which was my case. But if you stay away from the money and you use it as a tool and not the tool to chase fame or chasing the cloud, but to leverage on investing back in your company all the time, this is how you do it, actually. If you make money, invest back in innovation, research, develop more, bring it up, you're going to make more. And then it rolls by itself because it's a natural process that it keeps going and going and going. And I think that at the end of the day, you become really unstoppable. And I still feel that I'm totally unstoppable on many aspects. And I like to be challenged. Like in the new company I am now, I'm looking, I'm envisioning the future of this company, like to another dimension. Of course, I'm the only one in the company knowing what I'm doing and knowing where I'm going. So I need to convince other people and shareholders and stuff like that. But this is a thrill. Yeah, this is a thrill of life. It keeps you alive. It keeps you motivated. Every morning you wake up, you have a mission.
You talked about investing back into your business. And, I think the huge cornerstone of all the success that you've had is that you've invested back into yourself so much. You talked about learning and the skills that you've developed and trying new things and even picking up, calisthenics at a later age in life and now being one of the faces in that industry. And so I want to talk a little bit about, for anyone that, is listening right now and doesn't know anything about neuroscience or, the abilities that our human bodies have. I want to give kind of a base level, since you are the sensei, the Yoda, I should say, in this space. What is neuroscience and how can people utilize it to their advantage?
Let's put it back in perspective. In the old way of treating people, we had medicine, alternative medicine and medicine. And then with the modern medical schools and stuff like that, you came up to have doctors able to make diagnostic on people by looking at, I would call it a map, like your lungs, your heart, your brain. You have scans, x-rays, images, and things like that. On the other side, you had the whole psychology and psychiatry side of what was called pseudoscience earlier, but I think it's still science. That was trying to understand the concept of thought and mind, Freud and all these guys. But ask a psychiatrist to talk to a doctor, it's like they don't understand each other. They almost hate each other. And thanks God, like 50 years ago and I think in the last 20 years, the development were better. Neuroscience came in the portrait and is, for me, the interface of what is happening in your mind, in your brain, in your body. So on the psychological and psychiatric side of it, and psychiatric is a hard word there, psychological, let's take it that way. And on the biomechanical, physical, physiological side, at the opposite, like dictated or governed by medical schools and medicine in general. So neuroscience bridge both and make both of them understand that, okay, if your thoughts are going in that direction, it is because your body is not working in that way. It's because the neurotransmitter that you have in your body are not properly set or triggered or even inexistent. For serotonin, for example, sometimes too low. Now we understand that there is a concept of mind-body connection that is something that before we didn't know. We're trying to cure separately. But if you push that to the extent, if you know the neuroscience and you know what could be optimized in terms of using the neuroscience in deep, then you understand that you can optimize your body because it's all about making sure that you have the right neurotransmitters at the right moment when you want to do something. And for a performer like you, peak performer at the top, optimizing that, making it pinpointed, accurate enough, brings you to another level that no one expects. But we're all capable of doing it.
Yeah, I think it's all about, like you said earlier, is learning, whether it's in business, whether it's in your health, whether it's in your relationships, is always looking for, the knowledge that it takes. And that's the biggest gap, I think, between, wealthy in spirit and monetary, whatever it may be, in relationships. Like wealth is coming from knowledge and it's a precursor of knowledge, right? Yeah. And so when we understand how our brain works and how it correlates with our body and how our brain can play tricks on us so many times, we are the placebo, right?
Yeah.
Joe Dispenza. And we see these studies, like this is science, right? It's not woo-woo to the extent of this is not things that have been proven by science and data as well. So it's just very interesting to me. And I think it is a superpower whenever you can realize that the two, mind and body, correlating together is, when you can unlock the world and really, like you said, feel like you have no bounds. You're limitless.
No limit. Absolutely limitless, completely, like would say our friend Jim Quick. It's so true because every time that you're using your muscle or your organs, liver, breathing, which is the most important, the impact on your brain is so tremendous and it goes way beyond what like the common can think about. Like some people feel depressed for no reason, just because they want to be that way.
Right.
It's cool to be sad sometimes, what they say. I go the other way. I think that you start by using your breathing, your muscle, joint and everything, and then your brain gets in that alignment, which brings you to the enlightenment.
Yes. Yes.
You could say that, yeah.
The alignment thing is crazy for me too, because I feel like I had a point in my life where I started learning all these things, realizing them, and you kind of like the shadows start coming off your eyes and you start realizing like, wow, there's a lot of things that, I was lied to about. There's a lot of things that, I've been blind to. And I think it's all that awareness. And that awareness, when that starts opening up, it's like, okay.
You have to learn it.
You start seeing everything in a different light.
Yeah, and awareness doesn't come from vacuum. It comes from learning. So you need to be aware of what is existing, and to be aware of what is existing, you need to read, listen, watch, whatever, but learn in a way that information is now available pretty much everywhere. You can go to school. I went back to the MIT last year.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to know what artificial intelligence is and virtual reality. And the story to go back on that about the learning. But it was funny because when I started, I went back to MIT and we were 32 in the class, and I was just like, holy smoke, it's going to be a hard job because I know shit. And I was like, all the programming and everything was just like, what the? And I go like, I'm going to cry. But 8 months later, I was the first. I finished first.
Oh, wow.
It's because I learned that and with passion. At the beginning, I struggled, but then I found that it was so interesting. I became passionate, and I was working like 6-8 hours after my job at night, like cutting off my sleep a bit, because I wanted to know. And it's the same for neuroscience. You want to know, go deep into, understand the process of everything. When you understand that this has an impact on that, then you don't do it anymore. That's it. And you do the proper things. Like if you know that the light in the morning is so important, well, it doesn't take you much to get your face outside of the window and take a walk. It's not sacrifice.
I kind of want to backtrack a little bit. So you went to MIT to learn more about
artificial intelligence
and virtual reality. And I think that this wellness tech sector that's, building right now, I talked to the CEO from NutriSense not too long ago.
That was an interesting one.
Yeah. The guy who built the Therabody.
Love it.
Yeah. And so just hearing like some of those innovations and iterations, Dr. Jason Wersland is his name. But I mean, it was literally out of necessity. He had an awful crash and wanted to get deeper into the tissue and started like putting power tools together to dig into the muscle, right? It was built out of necessity. But to that point, where do you think the wellness tech industry is going? And, with biohacking as well, all of these tools that are now becoming available to us through technology, through artificial intelligence, how far do you think it's going to go and how quick? Because technology has been seeming to advance at a rapid pace.
Okay, so on two aspects. One is promoting knowledge and information. I see that as I've said that, and I actually shouldn't say too much. Like people say, don't speak too much because you're going to be copied, but I don't care. That brings me challenges to be better and to be faster. So Biohackers Magazine very soon is going to be a total immersive magazine.
Oh, okay.
Like instead of reading paper, you're going to put your life into it according to, like you enter a gate, you put your size, what you like, what you don't like, the food you like, the color you like. Artificial intelligence gets there, compile those information, make a calculation, and gets you into an environment of the magazine itself. For example, I like pink. Let's say I like pink for the fun of it.
Yeah.
I don't like spinaches. I want to learn about meditation. It's an article in the magazine. So I'm at the gate. I put my information, what I like, what I don't like, and then I go in the article meditation. I'll be surrounded by an environment that resembles to what I like, so I feel comfortable. And then meditation will be explained to me by virtual reality object and surroundings that comes to me and show me actually, instead of putting my mind to try to imagine or understand, it's going to be brought to me because eyes are our brain, and the information coming through the eyes is processed faster in short and long memories. So you're going to be in those environments and you're going to understand what meditation does. And then if you want to know what meditation does on your brain, you're just going to have to look at one part of the room, for example, and say, oh, but what about the brain? I see a brain there. Let's go there. Then you're going to see the impact on the brain of the neurotransmitter circulating from the brain, going into the body in different parts and making their action. And then you're going to understand what the neural pathways are in the brain subsequent to meditation. So it's an immersive experience. And we're probably going to be the only magazine doing that so far, hopefully. Maybe because you're super popular, we're going to be copied by Forbes tomorrow. Too late. Okay, that's okay.
We'll wait until you drop it, then we'll drop it.
No, go for it. Actually, it's going to be a great challenge for me to beat them up.
Yeah, speed kills.
Yeah, speed and innovation needs to be processed fast because our world is going fast. So I think on this aspect, like, Zuckerberg, I'm a fan of this kid. With the metaverse, is really on some things that is interesting. So you have this artificial intelligence, you have virtual and extended reality, but you need somewhere to join everything together, and this is the metaverse. We cannot escape the metaverse. It's going to be our parallel world of tomorrow. So that's one on the information. On the second side, how this is going to improve wellness, performances, fitness, and this industry. I think that if people are in the industry trying to sell a workout plan and think they're going to die, it's over, it's finished. Like now you need to be at least with some sort of extended reality when you do some workout plan. That's the minimum, but virtual reality with captors and things like that, optimizing, using biofeedback, straight in loop, cloud and back to you, so you can improve that way. Because if you don't track what you're doing, you're not going anywhere. And that's probably going to change the way that fitness in general, wellness, will be seen in the coming years, not even 10 years from now. I would see that in 3 years.
I mean, we're starting to see that even with Oura Ring and Fitbit and Whoop and all this, right? You're getting all that data and the analytics behind, if I drink one night, my sleep and my deep sleep was very deficient, as opposed to if I didn't. And then if I watch TV 2 hours before bed, okay, my deep sleep was also less. And, I was a little more, restless. All those things and that data, again, is knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And
it's that
oneness, though.
Yeah. It's interpretation of this knowledge. For too long, cloud monitoring, for example, or cloud data has been out there for years, but no one was aware of, okay, we're sending data to cloud. To do what? To do what? Now some companies are like, we have so much data that it's time to use them on purpose. Like, once again, life on purpose. So you bring back to these, those values and data that you've been collecting to optimize others. And this is artificial intelligence once again. Yeah, I love that. Actually, we're making better humans for sure. We're stepping in the direction. I have one thing that bothers me in the biohacking business, which is related to wellness and fitness indirectly as well. You look at all these guys, and with all respect for each and every one, it's because I'm a punk, okay? When you look at all these guys, they're all preaching the same thing. They're all saying the same thing. They're all mentioning the same factor, non-factor whatsoever. So what they do, and this is the part that really bothers me, is you have this emergence of pseudo-experts telling other people what to do, because the neuroscience behind it says that. But they know about science, and they know shit about neuroscience. But they know this chapter that they've learned.
Right.
And they're preaching through that. And at the end of the day, it's dangerous, because it's exactly the same that happened a decade or two earlier with diets and all these things, like you shouldn't eat that, you should have your macros, you should do that. And at the end of the day, our keto diet, well, actually, that's another one. We've seen that it's non-sustainable, and I think so all these pseudo-experts are not going in the right direction. And I was watching this on social media in general. This is where you find them. I was just like, what I want actually is just chasing fame by trying to get that hype that will be different, but it's not. I'm sorry to say that. It's not, and it's getting nowhere. A guy yesterday from the keto business was saying, stop eating fish oil. What? Yeah, because the temperature of your body is going to turn fish oil into very dangerous components. Come on. How can you say that? Yeah, a Chinese publication was saying that under certain circumstances, like fish were over in a warmest temperature water, and it turned to be toxic for them. But how do you transpose that to humans?
Your human body,
Come on. So we have all these, I don't know, it's a circus around there. And hopefully artificial intelligence will clean up these things, because we're going to avoid all these nonsense. But there is still this gap between science and non-science, I guess.
Yeah, I'm interested in your thoughts on what could be the potential, downfalls of artificial intelligence in terms of, similar to the internet, right? It's an incredible tool that we have, but it's also for people who use it to their detriment. It's not good.
No, not good.
It's actually
don't Google
toxic.
Everything.
Right. It's bad for mental health, and then their productivity and everything else, because they get caught in the companies using their biology and our psychology and how the human brain works. They have people who know neuroscience and know how we as humans act on their teams and on their sales and marketing teams. Like, this is marketing today. We just have to be aware of that. So what could be the potential downfalls or things that you want people to be aware of going forward as this oneness of artificial intelligence and humans starts becoming more and more of a reality?
So artificial intelligence, by principle, is a greater intelligence than our intelligence, but it's artificial.
Right.
So At the end of the day, we're still going to be the master of these,
right.
Because first, we don't understand all the connection in our brain. But is too little too much? Maybe not. I don't see artificial intelligence being something dangerous for the future. I really think that it's something that will bring our world, our society, to a better understanding of many concepts that have been kind of holistic for so long, like the quantum physics, for example.
Right.
But we're getting there, understanding concept and calculation and models and stuff like that in a way that's going to be clear. I truly believe that because artificial intelligence can be mastered in a way that it can clean up the mess that we have on Google, for example. So much information that are irrelevant or inaccurate. Artificial intelligence and ChatGPT, for example, doesn't give, most of the time, still some gaps there, but doesn't give fake information. It will warn you that this information from the web has no sources or no relevant route. So I like that. The more you go, the more it's going to be that way. So the more the information will be accurate, the knowledge will be more accurate as well. And the impact on the brain, look at that. How many times you're with friend and you're asking a question and the first reflex they have, I'm going to Google it.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate that to the point that, why don't you use your freaking brain to remember stuff instead of asking Google? Because you're asking Google, but in 10 minutes, you forget it.
I mean, I think it's similar to, technology now. I think we're already very close to the oneness sense of, technology and humans combining already with our phones, with smartphones. And it's, think about our lives without them. I mean, people have anxiety attacks if they forget their phone for 2 seconds and, constantly buzzing and, we're always on it. It's integrated in our life at this point. It already is there. It's just how quickly does it go to the next step of, where...
Taking over, you think?
Not taking over. I think more so, being able to use it on a different level where it's not a detachment, where it's a part of us even more so. So like the goggles itself, I don't think people are going to be walking around with the goggles, but what happens when they find a sleeker, shorter, more streamlined way to use a goggle like
the retina,
like a retina, like a contact lens,
contact lenses,
or even just normal glasses. Someone could put reading glasses on and they could have a lot of different data that's coming in, and that's already kind of existing. But at what point does someone in the artificial intelligence vertical create the next iPhone in that category, right? Or create the next company that expands and becomes, so immersive, like you were saying at the magazine, to where if you don't have one, you're at a disadvantage in society. Because I feel like, if you don't have a smartphone today, you're at disadvantage in society. And so it has created that oneness. So then, I don't know, I kind of went down a rabbit hole there, but to me, it's when does it just it's going to just keep going? But I think we're already closer than a lot of people realize.
But it's nothing different than the marketing impact in the early 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. So as soon as companies are going to leverage on the tools to sell more product, this is where we're going to fall short, because it's going to be like you were mentioning the goggles or contact lenses with extended reality. I love that. I've tried. It's fantastic. Like you walk in the street and you have information about if you're I love street art. You walk in Wynwood in Miami and you can have data on what is painted on those walls, whose graffiti guys are behind it. So this is great information. It's knowledge. But let's pretend you still walk in Wynwood looking at the street art and paintings, but suddenly you have Oakley sending you a promo. Hey, you have 50% if you go into that shop.
Yes. Okay.
So that's the thing that we're gonna fall short on that, because we're gonna be smashed and brainwashed again by marketing companies using that intelligently, actually, to sell more product. And this is what humans are. And we come back to the beginning of our discussion. Why we do that? Money.
Yeah, I want to, that brings to a good point that I wanted to discuss with you, because, there's been so much that's happened within the last 3 or 4 years in terms of, people becoming a little bit more awakened to how important it is to take care of their health. And at the same time, you look at it the reverse way, there's a trajectory of over 50% of Americans being obese within the next next 10 years. And that is a staggering number. And so what do you think? We talked about money and anytime something can be monetized, there's going to ultimately be corruption. But what do you think is the biggest underlying health issue that you see today, and maybe something that people, aren't very cognizant of that is really, ruining their health, whether it's mentally, physically, or, all around?
Well, it goes back a bit to products that are sold to the society, wrong information or wrong statement, pretending that they're going to be good for your health and they're not. It starts from there. Then, of course, all these drinking stuff like that are the pain. Fortunately, the next generation are well educated, and I have big faith on that. Honestly, your generation, the generation coming up after, they're super educated about, and they're very attentive to wellness and well-being, way more than we were. For us, when we were a kid, smoking was cool. Today, it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We're getting there. I believe that the food production is some things that having more attention to. The way that we produce food or overproduce food, like poor pigs and poor chickens, for example. I like meat, don't get me wrong. Cultures, all these things have to change. Now, we cannot go to the extreme by producing everything in labs. I don't think it's going to work. But we can optimize. We can optimize nutrients for humans. And we should do that the entire world, not just for America.
Yeah, the nutrient deficiencies is pretty crazy when you look at how the soil has, fallen off a cliff in terms of the nutrient, richness that we had in our foods, even in vegetables. Back 10, 20 years ago, as opposed to a vegetable now. You could take two of the exact same things and the minerals and the nutrient profile is going to be way less today because of the way that our soil is taken care of and just has aged over the years. That's why I really do like some of the companies that are starting to really put a focus on regenerative agriculture and really taking care of the soil and the environment how it was meant to be, instead of practices like monocropping and pesticides that are
and
fertilizers and like all of these things that we know are extremely bad for us, but in the name of a dollar and mass production are set to the wayside a lot of times. And for the common person who doesn't again have the knowledge or understanding of that, then they fall victim to that. I mean, maybe sometimes to no fault of their own, right? So I think just that widespread knowledge of that is important.
And I think that we should stop trying to play God on everything we do on this planet, because when hydroponic for tomatoes and stuff like that was born, he said we don't need soil to grow tomatoes. We're going to put water and salt and minerals and we're going to get the best tomatoes in the world. But try it. Doesn't taste the same. So you can play God and say, I know everything is in a tomato and I'm going to feed the tomato with all the minerals. You don't go against nature. And it's the same for human. Everything that you put a too artificial way into your body, like supplement for me as pain, they have to be chosen properly. But some people take 2,000 supplements a day just because this is good. They've seen that, they heard that. But at the end of the day, the effect is zero. You just have your super expensive pee,
exactly. That's so true. It's interesting too. It's almost the American diet too, because you could go overseas and eat pasta, drink wine, eat bread, not feel bloated and stuff, because some of the practices that we have in America are literally illegal overseas. And so there's just that difference too, where it's like, okay, maybe it's not the food itself, like maybe it's not the type of food itself, either, but just how it's been made in America and produced.
It is true. And at the end of the day, if we look at the deep impact of all these things that going into our body, it comes down to one single simple factor: stem cell. So we're playing God again, trying to inject stem cells to people to make them younger and stuff like that. This is another story. They're good for joints repairs.
Yes.
This is fantastic. But other than that, I think that if we pay attention to the root of what makes us better living persons, it's stem cell. You have to pay attention to what feeds your body and what makes your body regenerating or repairing or improving properly. And to do that, it's we're coming from Earth, not Mars. And using the elements that are available on our planet is probably the secret of everything.
Yeah, and I think that's where the data collection and the artificial intelligence
back at it
can be so good because we all have different lineages. We all come from different ancestors from different places in the world where that diet was different. And so things that are good for me may not be good for you and vice versa. There is no standard. And that's again where the fads and all of those things, it's like that's bullshit a lot of the time because, you know, everybody's biology is different. All of our makeups are different. All of our DNAs are different. So how can one thing be standardized? Of course, there's going to be some basic staples that are true facts of
it goes
what's
back to
good,
the baseline of what genetic material you start from, knowing that the epigenetic material has an impact. So you keep, let's say, 40% of your genes are going to be like stable and you can change them. So whatever you take is not make any modification in your life, but the rest is adaptable to the environment, what you ingest and things like that. So artificial intelligence in that sense, I do agree with you 100%. Will definitely make things clear to, okay, you have this type of pattern, you have this DNA profile. If I look at the calculation and the mathematical model that comes down to, you should go that way carefully, but artificial intelligence will probably not be able to look at the environment you are in at the same time as the DNA calculation and implication. So there is always a part from the human to be done, and this goes against what you were saying before. The magic pill doesn't exist. It still takes you to be involved in the process.
We've talked about, you know, some of the minerals and you know, biohacking in general and a lot of the tools that we have. You're starting to see a rise in nootropics as well. And so another exogenous supplement that we can take, you know, it's sometimes derived naturally as well. Sometimes, you know, in addition to something that our body creates naturally. But what are some of the ones that, if you could say, this one, you know, I love this, you know,
ginseng.
What is it? Yeah.
Ginseng is my favorite, and it's an ancestral one, but it goes, many aspects of your life are optimized by that. The drawback on ginseng now is the commercial ginseng that you have available, that you can buy, is probably not the same that the folks from Korea or Japan were doing, like 7 years in a field and keeping the field just for 7 years, and then the soil is over, they have to wait another 10 years before to grow it again. That was high quality ginseng. Today it's a different one, but still ginseng is really a longevity and improver, if I can say, on many aspects of your life, from brain to functionalities of livers and everything. And maca could be another one.
Yes. We've seen we talked about the rise of obesity. At the same time, we've seen a decline in men's testosterone over the last decade. It's starting to become, you know, dare I say, an epidemic, I think, because of, you know, infertility and other things that come along with that. Much less just any man listening wants to have the highest testosterone possible, you know, in terms of motivation, in terms of sex drive, in terms of, you know, being able to get shit done, ambition, all these things that are a precursor, right? So what do you think is really the underlying cause of this decline? Like, what are we doing wrong as men, and how can we, you know, help get that back on track?
I'm going to make a slight correction. We don't do it wrong as men. We do it wrong as human, because even testosterone in women has an impact. Our society, our phones, the way that we eat, we sleep, we drink, has a real impact on the testosterone level. It turns to be some sort of pandemic almost, but it's a parallel of this pandemic of obesity or people losing hair, which is related to testosterone as well. Simple fact: go for a cold plunge, you're going to boost your testosterone 400%. What more you want? But this is it. You know, simple tricks to do that. Maca is a precursor of testosterone. It helps that too. It's the way that we live that shift our biology. As simple as that. As soon as you address that problem, you address everything in your life, and you address everything back to neuroscience. You adjust everything in your body.
I think we've talked about a lot. We've clicked into a lot of different topics, and the overlying thing that really sticks out to me is the awareness that you've cultivated, but also the belief in yourself and the realization that we do create our own realities. You were quoted saying every decision we make consciously or subconsciously shifts our biology towards cell aging. So it's being aware of the subconscious patterns, being aware of what we consciously do on a day-to-day basis, and adding up to the realization that we really can do whatever we want, live whatever life we want, and accomplish and achieve, our wildest dreams, right? And I think that realization is something that if more people believed and realized, we would have even more innovation, even more technology that was pushing society forward. So how can people really start cultivating that belief in themselves and really starting to believe that the world is their oyster?
Instead of being a fan of others, be a fan of yourself.
Yeah.
That's the first step. Love yourself to the end. Think that you are the best thing that can happen to you because it's you. If you're a fan of yourself, you're going to make sure that everything that happens to you has no negative impact. And if you start from there, you're just going to be chasing perfection, improving every day, because every decision you're going to take will have an impact on your biology point, and you're going to make yourself better. You're not going to go for that thing because it's bad for you. You're going to do this because it's going to improve your testosterone. You're going to do that because it improves your life and your relationship. And don't underestimate relationship. They're like an important factor in life and longevity and wellness. Even just thinking out loud, I love being alone. I spend like 2 hours a day alone. No music, no sound, nothing, just being alone. That brings me creativity. But I don't neglect social interaction on purpose. If it's to talk about the weather, I don't care. I pass on that. Yeah. But other than that, I love intellectual exchanges and challenges. Everything that you have to think about what you are saying. We should do that all the time, actually. But when you have to think about what you have to say, it's a fantastic exercise because we're triggering neuroplasticity right now.
We have touched a lot of topics, and it's been such a good time. But you've probably heard this question from me, and I'm going to ask it to you again. But what is your definition of success?
Yeah, I remember when you asked me that, and I said last time I said freedom. I still think that freedom is the highest level of success, because knowledge is something, but you can spend your life learning. You will never know everything or enough. I think it's enough. But having the freedom to be able to learn, balance everything. Now you are challenging me because I want to change my answer of freedom, and I'm trying to find out a new word or a new concept of what could be the definition of success. It's the luxury of deciding where you want to be, how you want to be, when you want to be, with whom you want to be, in order to be at your best. And this is probably what is happening to me today.
I love hearing how you're thriving here. It's amazing, and it's very evident that this place is, done great things for you, and it will continue to do that. Where can everybody find you online if they're listening right now, hearing about you for the first time?
Okay. Well, the best is probably jeanfallacara.com. You get links to everywhere, but Biohackers Magazine is really or think if you want to learn more about and listen to that, you can Google the name, of course. Makes sense. Instagram is my favorite spot to Instagram remains my favorite. Like Cyborg Gains is where I try to share knowledge, as simple as that. But I'm going to be challenged now that ChatGPT can do better than me, so people will start sharing more knowledge than me using it. But that's cool. As soon as I will still be making the best move in calisthenics.
Yes, you will. Yeah. You will. And I'm so excited for what Biohackers Magazine is going to be, because you think of, print journalism and what it is today and what we just talked about. I mean, that got me excited. Wow. And the innovation that could be in that industry. It would be a disruptor in the industry. And, it already has kind of changed and started going towards, all online. But I mean, I just love, having these, like you said, mind stimulating conversations conversations. It opens up, perspective, and it opens up ideas. And I'm just thankful for your friendship, and thank you for being here.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I am so thankful. And talking about biohackers, once again, we need to have you in this magazine for sure.
Yes.
It's like
I'd
for
love
everything
that.
you do is tremendous. I'm so honored to be again in this podcast. I love it. I love your guest.
Yeah.
Like it's always like thrilling, and the conversation are high level. I think that the purpose of life is this, like is trying to raise the bar of your level of understanding and knowledge, and you bring this to the world. So congrats. Keep going.
Thank you. Thank you, Jean. Guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Breathin Air podcast with Jean Fallacara. Please go check him out at Cyborg Gains. Check out the Biohackers magazine and everything else that he is doing to continue to innovate and help you in your daily walk. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next week.
Thank you.